Hey guys, Shawn Shell. I'm the general manager for the Midwest at Neudesic.
Awesome. Hey, I'm Steve Tetrault. I am the CTO for financial services and insurance.
I'm Steven Felger, Senior Client Executive leading our public sector here at Neudesic.
One of the things that was really interesting and fascinating, you talked about being in the public sector. Steve, I know you do a lot of work in financial services,
Mhm.
and the commonality is this highly regulated environment
Yes.
where there is seemingly a ton of opportunities for technology to make a difference, and yet we feel like we're a little on the constrained side. There's so many rules, so many processes, and there's likely a bunch of legacy tech that can't really be easily displaced. Let's start with the opportunities. Let's talk about that. Steve, what do you think about the opportunities in state and local that where technology could play a role?
Absolutely. Well, public sector, right? You're looking across federal, state, local, so looking at counties, cities, NGOs, and all kinds of different boards that moderate and govern
So really
policy.
no end of opportunities then.
Well, as far as that, yes. So there's a lot of opportunities for technology to support. There's great organizations that govern that, but there's a lot of with new and ongoing compliance changes, policy changes. Our government leaders need to adapt, and they need to adapt quickly. These new compliance mandates, they're enforced. So our government leaders they're aware of them. They're actively addressing those, but it takes a capacity that they don't have that just staff cannot address.
Yeah.
And the old ways of working, right? So when they have, we'll say, audit reports and things that need to go up for certain mandates, doing it the old way, it takes months, and it takes their staff away from their core mission of serving the constituents.
Mm.
So we're utilizing AI, and there's tons of opportunity for AI for compliance and audit reports and things of that nature. And those are critical. The audits and all the different compliance, it's there for our safety, it's there for our protection. So it's not just really checking a box, but using AI, they're able to complete those activities, those necessary activities, while still focusing on the mission and not picking between one or the other.
You're really talking kind of generically in some ways,
Mhm.
because you named a whole lot of different agencies at all levels in government, including non-governmental agencies. Do you have an example of a particular requirement for reporting that you were using as you were describing the situation and the opportunity? What's an example? And I know that you're very connected with California. Maybe you can start there.
Sure. There's let's see. I'm thinking right now as I was discussing that, I was thinking about new mandates that came down around asset management.
Hmm.
Looking at this is in the construction industry, but it's still within the public sector. The
Mhm.
mandate came down. All lead pipes within an X radius of population need to have digital records of those assets.
Okay.
Now that needs to happen by 2030. Okay. But going out and capturing all those records. So what we utilized to support our clients was a document intelligence platform. So if you picture diagrams of all the pipes that are out there, they need to digitize that. And there's a lot of data entry. What we were able to help our client do, which ultimately helped a gas and utility company in California, was use our document intelligence platform, extract all the data from these different forms, and automatically digitize that. We saved them countless hours, countless man hours. I mean, they were looking at somewhere around the tune of 30 people to do the data entry, and we were able to help them accomplish that in months.
Well, and it's fascinating being from the state of Michigan, and a lot of lead pipe, especially for water delivery, has been in the news, making water undrinkable into people's homes. It's a significant problem.
Mhm.
Obviously, lead has huge health implications. Talk to me about more than just the inventory. What were the implications of being faster to gather, consolidate, synthesize this data for the local government? Is there a public safety dimension that could be?
Absolutely, a public safety dimension. The compliance requirement was to get digital records.
hmm
That's not the outcome. The outcome
Right.
is not to get a digital record. The purpose of the digital record, getting these assets that are out in the field, and we're talking about pipes here, but you can look at an asset as a telephone pole.
Sure.
Having a digital record of those is not the intended
Right.
business
So
result.
talk to me
The-
about the outcome.
Yeah, the outcome that people are looking for is if and when something arises,
Mhm.
say a natural disaster, fires, they need to have an inventory of those assets, because those, if you lay those out on a map, where is there a fire? Where is there an earthquake? Where is there a fault line or a risk? They need to know they need to have an inventory of what is on the scene at that time. So the outcome there is truly public. It's benefiting. The outcome is. Let me try to say this another way. If and when something occurs,
Yeah.
they know what is on site.
Yeah.
They know all the factors and variables that are in the situation. So, situational awareness is really the outcome, and that helps them respond quicker if and when something happens.
And it doesn't have to be a disaster. I mean, you're
doesn't have to
digging
be.
in your front yard to put in a new water feature, or you want to create some different landscaping. You just need to avoid public utilities. You need to avoid water lines. You need to avoid gas lines. And so having that data is both key when responding to a disaster, but also just everyday citizen to government interaction.
Mhm.
It's super helpful. No?
Absolutely. Having that records, right, where that even comes down in permitting,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're looking to build, right, if you're looking to make an improvement on your property, they need to have those records. And the old way of doing things is they would send someone out to the site and do an inspection.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about that, right, permitting and things of that nature, they generate revenue for the cities, but it's also a cost to go out there and do the site surveys and things of that nature. If they have a digital record of that, the speed in which they can address the public's needs significantly increases.
Right.
And that's what, the best government is the one that you never see in here. Right.
That's right. It's just easy to interact with.
It's easy to interact with.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we're seeing right now in a lot of places is navigating municipal services. What's a city service? What's a county service? What's something that's provided by the private? In all honesty, most of our constituents, residents, not fully informed on that.
Yeah.
So how can we help them better navigate that? Because they have all of us have a thing that we want to accomplish in our life. It's our friends, it's our family, it's our neighbors. The things we want to accomplish and achieve, man.
So many opportunities.
So many opportunities, and navigating the municipal systems. We don't want to get good at knowing our government. We want to get good at enjoying the lives that we have.
Yeah,
So,
indeed.
So that's part of where technology can help navigating municipal services.
And Steven, I know you're very focused on SLG. Steve, and by the way, I love the fact that you're both sort of Steves at the core, because it makes me not have to remember any more names.
There you go.
I think we just call everybody Steve. I'm the only Shawn. Makes it really easy.
I like that too.
You focus a lot in financial services, and like state and local, federal, and NGO, there's a lot of regulations, a lot of constraints.
Yes.
In terms of what you can actually use technology to accomplish and legacy processes and all. Tell me what you're thinking about these days as it relates to artificial intelligence or technology in general.
Mm-hmm. There is just so much opportunity across the board, right? Like there's a lot of the same kind of key components, and we're obviously using similar things like AI and stuff like that. And there's a lot of kind of some similar themes, I would say.
Sure.
Like if you boil down what Steven was saying, a lot of it is like customer experience.
Sure. Yeah.
Although in, kind of the public sector, you probably wouldn't phrase it that way, but there's certain use cases like let's talk about know your customer. So in the banking world, if you're a corporation and you want to open up a new bank account, you have to go in and you have to prove who you are, and you have to provide identification and your articles of incorporation. And this back and forth takes a lot of time. So a lot of that leveraging AI and intelligent document processing can be automated, which is great for a couple reasons. Reason number one, the bank is actually able to give you a better customer experience because you can open your account faster, and that is going to make you happier. So they're going to be able to draw more customers in.
Sure.
Awesome. The bank is also able to automate that process, so they need less humans to actually do it. I know for a fact IBM, which is our parent company, does a lot of these big programs automating the back process for a couple of large banks
Mm,
for sure, which is 2, 3, 4, 500 people just for this process, right? So by automating a lot of that, they can save money. That's the second benefit.
sure.
But the third benefit is the bank's actually getting your money quicker. And the bank makes their money by taking your money and investing it. So they're getting your money quicker, so they're getting revenue on your money faster. So they're actually getting a better customer experience. They're getting like operational efficiency, and then they're also getting increased revenue off of the one improvement. And there's things like that that exist everywhere. AI is able to, kind of revolutionize things. And with generative AI, it was not just kind of a step forward, it was an absolute leap forward.
Mm,
And there's just people who were kind of waiting and, kind of testing the waters with AI now have the ability to leapfrog forward and are really able to kind of do the next level with generative AI because they can really just step past a lot of the other things that were taking a lot of time.
yeah.
As an example, we've been doing intelligent document processing for 5 or 6 years. We have some in customers where we developed a solution to process bank statements. And because bank statements come in a variety of different formats, we had to have a model with like 200 different varieties in the training set and things like that. It took us about 9 to 12 months to build, and we'd been maintaining it for 3.5 years. We replaced it in 2 weeks with one model with no training set, right? Like this is what we can do with generative AI. So the barrier to entry, instead of being like 12 months and over $1 million, is a couple weeks. It's significantly lower. So you're able to get further faster today than you could have before.
Well, that was the question I was thinking the whole time you were
Hmm.
describing this. I mean, we have been dealing with artificial intelligence, machine learning quite literally for decades. This is
Hmm.
not fundamentally new.
Correct.
We're reaching the point clearly that we have the compute and the storage and the networking to support all of the processing required.
Yeah.
But talk to me a little bit about, since you're the technologist, going to rely on you. Talk to me a little bit about what's different now that wasn't true maybe 5 years ago.
Oh, so many things.
So many things. Maybe just
So many
the short
things.
story.
The short story. What generative AI has really done that's kind of revolutionized things is just the breadth of what you can accomplish easily. Like,
Okay.
as an example, I always go back to intelligent document processing because that's in financial services and insurance. I spend a lot of my time there because there's a lot of manual paper-based processes that we end up automating there, and kind of data platform modernization and then application modernization of legacy platforms and things like that
Okay.
are kind of
So
some of the key buckets.
I want to dig into all of that, but
Yeah,
like,
I want
tell
to
me,
answer your
yeah,
in question.
exactly.
So there, right? What generative AI specifically did in the intelligent document processing space previously, leveraging kind of traditional AI, we could handle invoices and receipts and things that had a nice defined structure, up to maybe a 4 or a 5 out of 10. Once we got into a contract or an attending physician statement, anything that was unstructured in nature, anything that did not have a defined format, anything that was complicated, right? It was very, very hard to handle. You had to make a custom machine learning model for that specific document type. And if it changed, you had to change your model. It was very, very, very expensive. And it was one off all the time.
So short answer on a model. A model is what exactly?
So think of a model as basically just a solution to extracting content from a document.
A series of calculations to predict what values are important, where they live on the page. Is that
So
correct?
so we actually tell the model what's important, and it just goes and figures it out.
Okay.
Traditionally, it would look at, things like position on the page. It would
Mm-hmm.
expect it in like a certain space,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like in the old screen scraping type of type of approach. Now with generative AI, it takes more of a human-like approach where it's kind of got a list of questions. It reads the document and it's like, oh, here's the answer to question number 5. Writes it down, and then it's like it'll keep on reading. Oh, there's 7. There's number 1. It doesn't really matter where in the document it is, but it's just going through with its list of questions or list of fields to extract and then answering it. So the format isn't as important, and it's able to handle complexities easily well past 8. And we're even dealing with customers that I would say have a solid like 9.5 now.
And this scale that you're talking about is really the difficulty, right?
Yes.
We started at a 4 difficulty. We could kind of get that done if what we were reading was predictable and regulated and it didn't change.
Mhm.
We're now able to read documents of various types,
Yep.
Even if they change, and we can do it at a difficulty level of 8, 9.
Yep.
And have good results. Is that right?
Yes. And I'm talking about like complicated legal contracts, like syndicated loans, like things that are like you need significant domain expertise in order to understand, right? Like, so very, very complicated use cases in the financial sector, life insurance policies,
Mm-hmm.
things that are not straightforward. It's not like think about it this way. If you were actually to go and validate it, I could hand you an invoice and say, is this correct? And you'd be like, yep. I could hand you a syndicated loan and say, is this correct? And you'd be like, I have no idea. Right. So the higher the complexity, the harder it actually is to validate because there's just so much embedded in there and the domain knowledge and the context, which is part of the reason why it makes it so complicated to actually get it right. And these are the types of problems that we're able to like get in there and actually solve with generative AI. Because in the prompts, it's not just like, oh, look here. It's like, oh, here's a question that I want you to answer, and here's some context, and here's the definition of what this is, and here's some key points about it. So you can actually kind of give it a lot of context about what you're looking for, and you can do it in a lot of different ways. So you're able to really, I don't want to say teach it, but you're really able to provide it with a lot of detail around what you're looking for and how you're doing it. And that's just intelligent document processing.
Mhm.
The same is true across the board. And if you start talking about agents, where you take that similar concept and start combining that with actions, so you have, the ability for a large language model to make these or do these specific extractions or have this like inference knowledge and then take a specific action based off of it. So not only could I extract something from a document, but I can make a decision and then approve a loan.
Okay.
Or I could make a decision and do something else. So you can actually automate a whole process where a customer doesn't have to touch it at all.
Well, I feel like I opened up a can of worms and I just wound
Yes.
you up, and you were just going to keep going
All
So-
week long.
Let him.
what I wanted to do, and this is an interesting observation as you both have been speaking, but it should be a little odd for us to be talking about paper so much. I mean, it's 2025. Why is there so much paper involved? Is this potential condition of this regulated environment that we live in? I mean, let's talk about state and local government. Why is there so much paper in state and local government still?
I think it's a holdover. I think they.
Okay.
How do you have you have to maintain records, right, for compliance, for audit trail, for those purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And the way of thinking, our paradigm has been this paper, this 8.5 by 11 inch
It's durable.
paper is a record, right?
Yeah.
And then take a picture of it. Now I have a digital copy. I think it's really just a holdover, right? How else, until we get to the point of blockchain, where is going to be that digital record that allows us to maintain our compliance? And I really do. I think it's a holdover. I think there are definitely ways that we can maintain that level of compliance, have a digital footprint, or a digital record, without the paper document.
I love that
but-
you're going straight there. We're gonna give people confidence that the digital record is as durable as the physical one, and we can have confidence that we can rely on this for whatever process we need that involves that record. But is there a different reason? And let's shift over to financial services. I still fill out when I go to the dentist or the doctor or I get a bank
Don't get
loan,
me started.
paper upon paper. I mean, my wife and I just refinanced our home, and my goodness, there was a lot of paper involved. So
So there's two things there. And let's not go into the health thing about how you have to fill out the same form 3 different times and then the
yeah,
doctor asks you all those questions
yeah,
anyway. That's a different problem.
sure,
But so when you have to either submit a claim for insurance or something like that, there's often like there's a paper form, or like you're onboarding onto a new process, or a loan, a mortgage. There's like you have to submit a lot of paperwork and things like that. The reality is it's still it's still just easy. And the cost of integration and the cost of having everything digitized is still very high. So it's it's still it's still around, and it's going to be around for a while until everything gets integrated in different countries. India is actually a really good example where their banking and their finance system is incredibly open and integrated. They've got a standard architecture across the country, and all of their APIs are integrated.
Mm,
So when you apply for a loan or something like that in India, there's no paper involved.
mm.
Like everything just goes from bank to bank. All of your ID is all integrated. It's really cool, actually.
And
Uh,
I imagine that's not true here, eh, in the U.S.
no, not even close.
And our northern neighbor, Canada, is still fairly paper-based as well?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd be interested, as a response to that. So you fill out, let's say that you do not fill out paper to refinance, but you want to get a copy for yourself. How would you like to get that copy back?
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? I don't know. I think it's challenging still to operate entirely digitally because we are still very paper-based.
Paper-based, right? So maybe it's a common format, right? Maybe in the future there will be that common format that is
Yeah.
blockchain. If you want information, all it is, it's the paper is a way to organize the information,
Sure.
right?
But
So if we have a different way to organize information, or receive it back, maybe that's an evolution we'll be talking about soon. But to your point, you go to the doctor's office, you put in your name, a couple of things here. You can over digitize to a point, I believe, or over engineer something, right? If you just need to
100%.
sign in, there's a lot of things that people say, hey, I need to put AI on this process. You will spend more money and maybe even have a more complex thing to manage than a quick sign-in sheet or
Sure.
something along those sides. So we don't want to infuse AI because AI is helpful. It's not going to always solve the
Wait,
problem.
you said something. You don't
Yeah.
want to infuse AI because AI is helpful. Did you mean you didn't want to infuse AI just for the sake of infusing AI?
You don't want to infuse AI because AI is cool.
There you
You
go.
want to
Okay,
use
maybe
the
that's
right
yeah.
tool for the right job.
Right.
And I see a lot of customers wanting to use AI and then looking for a use case versus having a use case and then looking for the right way to solve it.
So
Right?
let's talk about two things. One, I think everything we've discussed so far is probably not that dissimilar from non-regulated industries. A corporate enterprise environment has
Yep.
similar challenges and similar potential benefits for using
Mhm.
all this tech. What makes regulated environments unique, and can that uniqueness uncover a particular set of use cases that could be very compelling versus maybe a commercial one? Let's
Wanna
start with
start?
There
let's
are-
start with state and local.
I believe it was the eligibility systems for Medicare or Medicaid. They've made a decision that AI will not be used for any eligibility
Why?
determinations, because things like you've probably seen in the news, there are insurance companies, healthcare companies that are really just getting criticized for using AI to make determinations that really have impacts on people's health, their well-being, their safety. And if we automate that too much, if we have artificial intelligence do that too much, then we are essentially making decisions, or excuse me, AI, we're allowing AI to make decisions on someone's outcome instead of a person evaluating the person. So can it evaluate is an application for Medicaid, is it complete? Absolutely, it can evaluate that. But the final decision making, it's not ones and zeros. The final decision making is looking at the whole person that is applying. So there's some areas where it is definitely beneficial, but in those major decisions for eligibility, insurance, things of that nature, the AI AI can be an assistant, but not a final determinant.
Okay, hang on just 1 second. So you just gave an answer that totally says we shouldn't implement AI. So where I was going with this was I was hoping you would give me the safety and security. What's the opportunity there? Instead, you told me where we don't want to put AI.
I have a different take on that one too.
Yeah,
but I, for the purposes of this, I'm definitely with you. I'm tracked with you. I really do think that there's places that we're trying to automate things that need a personal touch. And I'll say like case management, like a caseworker, right?
Okay. So, talk about a caseworker.
A caseworker for social service,
and include the things that are unique and special about that kind of use case that's maybe different than, processing any old document at Target.
Yeah. So a caseworker, if you look at whole person care is the concept that it is more effective, more cost effective, more efficient, better outcomes if you address the whole person, meaning and do it in advance. So if you have someone coming out of the we'll say the prison system, or someone that is homeless, the whole person care addresses that you prevent it before you treat it. It is more effective for everyone to prevent than it is to treat. And so what does that mean? So you're looking then at social services, you're looking at behavioral health, you're looking at mental health, you're looking at the justice system, WIC, all of these services that are available to a person, so that when something comes up and maybe you have an encounter, that could be with a police officer, that could be with a court system, a social worker, that they have a whole record, a record of the whole person. And the social worker deals with a case, right? An individual in this, using a case management system, they'll have a record. And it's not just isolated into one department or one agency, right? Because we navigate so many governmental services or government systems for all of our services. So whole person care, our new care solution, it consolidates all of those different sources of data about that person, and they have treatment plans, they have care plans, so that essentially you can prevent them from being treated as, we'll say off the street, and get them to a place, but you can really navigate the systems. And what AI does, it doesn't take the personal touch out of it.
Yeah.
It's not saying here's the person. What should I do? How can I help? AI is used to incorporate it with a modern data platform and application. It consolidates that information to help the caseworker help the person, right? We're not using AI.
Chronically underfunded government agencies that are focused on community help and community care can now supplement true human interaction with artificial intelligence that can help automate away the trivial and help the human focus on the real. And it sounded like when you are consolidating all of the telemetry about an individual case, an individual person, that caseworker can now focus on the important dimension, which is preventing or anticipating some bad outcome, and work on making sure that individual gets the services and the care that they might need so that they can continue to improve or maintain, rather than having an encounter, as you put it. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
It is to supplement and get the highest and best use of the person in the process.
That's awesome. Now, Steve, you have a different set of...
Sort of. So here's where you lost me, right? So there's a safe way to have AI make decisions, right? Like there's a safe way to enable it. And in certain situations, especially when you're making decisions about people that could impact their health or their future or things like that, there's a lot of risk involved. So I could see that you would absolutely want to take care with that, and you'd want to make sure that it's done right. And you'd want to do a lot of stuff first, right? That would not be where I would start, right?
Mm.
I would do a lot of other things first, and I would prove it out, and I'd be very meticulous, and I would be, I would do a lot of things first, and I would work up to it, and I would prove the program. But there's ways that it can be done, and there's ways that it can be done effectively. So I wouldn't just say no. Um, but however, what I would do is I would make sure that when we're approaching it and going down that path, we are kind of taking all of the right steps towards that place.
Mm.
What I do agree with, however, is there are things that you should not take the human out of. Even in financial services, a very money driven thing. And the main thing is not necessarily the decisions, because I do believe that that can be done effectively. And if you actually looked at the numbers, I bet AI, if implemented correctly, would probably do a better job than humans, because AI doesn't have bad days. AI doesn't have hangovers.
But it has bad data.
That's true, but so do humans,
Sure.
right? Like they all fall prey to the same victim. So if AI has bad input and human has bad input, they're both going to falter.
I would argue that there's a scale difference, though. An AI agent can process thousands of records in a matter of minutes, where a human would take hours or days or weeks. And the impact of a similarly bad data input has far more harsh implications when you're automating that process, wouldn't you say?
Um, it has quicker implications, agreed,
Okay.
but the implications are the same. You're going to get to the same output.
Yeah.
You're just going to get there quicker, right? But like the data is the first thing you have to look at when
Sure.
you're actually automating. And there's no way you should get to that place where you're letting something loose, where your data is in such a state where it's systematically flawed.
Yeah.
Like you can't responsibly get to that state. But where I wanted to go with this is really a good example of where you don't want to take the human out is life insurance, right? So when somebody calls into a life insurance, every life insurance company, every time you call in, you will get a human like first ring. You will not wait, because when you call into a life insurance to make a life insurance claim, somebody just died,
Mm.
right? And you could automate that 100%. It's very easy, right? You will need like 3, 4 pieces of data, but what you miss is you miss the empathy. You miss somebody getting that somebody that this person cares about just died,
Mm.
right? And it's probably difficult. And the reality is that a lot of the legacy life insurance companies don't have their data estates in a very integrated state. They're still on like legacy mainframes and things like
Mhm.
that. And I've worked with life insurance companies in particular, where for all of their data to get synced, it's daisy chained, so it takes about a week. So that means if you call in to report your dear grandmother has passed away today, it could not make the full round until a week from today. So if you just can't finish the claim today because you're really choked up, you say, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't do this now. And you call back Friday, Saturday, it's possible that they could not have record of your call in all systems. So the AI wouldn't know that any of this happened. So there would be none of that empathy or compassion for the fact that you may have already given half of this info.
Mm.
So you might be a little bit frustrated.
Mm.
So
Mm.
they really need that kind of empathetic, compassionate piece there. So there's absolutely a place for humans in a lot of this, but there's also a lot of things that can be automated if done responsibly, methodically, and with a kind of security first mindset.
Okay. One of the themes that I thought we might touch on is this idea of leapfrog. We're talking about largely as data, as Steve's data. Little Star Trek reference. Sorry about that. As Steve suggested, there are a lot of legacy systems that just operate very slowly, disconnected.
Mhm.
That creates a terrible experience. But in this case, the other implication is you're dealing with a lot of personal information, health information,
Yep.
and in the government has more information theoretically than anybody, and the need to secure that data regarding a particular citizen or an insured is one of the reasons why all these regulations exist, right? To your point about keeping people safe. Talk to me about the implications and the ways that we can mitigate the risk using artificial intelligence with such sensitive data.
So using artificial intelligence to specifically mitigate risk, or mitigating the risk of using artificial intelligence.
I think both, right?
Okay.
Artificial intelligence is just yet another technology in a long line of technologies that have been applied to help automate and improve.
Yep.
Artificial intelligence is unique in the sense that we're now allowing it in certain circumstances to operate independent of human oversight.
Mhm.
Even if it's a trivial transaction, it's still operating somewhat independently. And that's
Yep.
the promise in some ways.
Yes.
What are the implications in a regulated industry that you need to be aware of when implementing AI
Mhm.
to help speed a process, a legacy process? And what are the opportunities for regulated industries that would enable them to leapfrog? They may not have to modernize their whole legacy data estate, or they may not have to completely modernize all of the processes to implement this tool.
So let me address that in
Yeah.
a separate from safety. Look at public procurement, right? There's a reason that we have a procurement process, and it is highly regulated and it's cumbersome and it's all compliance driven. Um, but all of those are rules, right? You can use AI within the boundaries and still maintain the compliance. So if you are a procurement officer, you put out a bid for a project and you get 15 responses
Mm.
back. The old way would be to, okay, now we have, this group will take section, the core scope of the project. This group will take the cost section, and you score and evaluate. That is still possible. If you ingest, we'll say, 10 proposals into a platform that is leveraging AI, you can synchronize, you can rack and stack, you can look at all of these on a page. Now, do we want? I believe that a good example would be like a LinkedIn job fit score, right?
Hmm.
First pass, you would see, did they answer and meet all the compliance requirements? These are mandatory qualifications to submit
Mm.
this bid. The second one, you could get a quick pass and look at a fit. Are they going to make a decision based on that? Absolutely not. But managing all these documents, managing the data, those are the main thing with compliance is that our procurement officers and leaders in the government, they want it to go through smoothly. They want to get the best offer, the best value with our taxpayer
Mhm.
dollars. Um, and if there is a protest, right? If the award or the procurement is challenged, that only delays the improvement to our
Sure.
public sector,
Yeah.
right? So AI is not going to make that ultimate decision. It can go through and help them consolidate, aggregate, and meet and ensure that they are meeting all the compliance requirements. Still make the final decision as the human, as a conglomerate of the procurement team. But AI can do all the consolidation so that really they can focus on the demos and the interviews and getting to know, is this the type of company? Is this the type of solution that we're really looking for?
Yeah.
So that's where I believe AI can help.
So the opportunity immediately in state and local government in particular is to not think about AI to replace whole processes or departments, but rather to speed processing the trivial and the transactional
Absolutely.
so that humans can focus on the things that humans do well.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
Very well
Yeah.
said.
Steve?
So I'll focus on kind of like how you can do it to not necessary to kind of mitigate the risk first.
Mm.
There's some core principles, things like explainability, traceability, responsibility, that you really want to take into account. You need to have a well-defined kind of center of excellence governance model wrapped around it. You
Mhm.
need to take it seriously. You need to get your corporate risk officer involved, and you need to treat it like an end-to-end program,
Mm.
right? And it needs to be done from day one, right?
Mhm.
Like you can't just go off like half baked. It's not going to work like that. Opportunities are boundless. I could talk endlessly about the opportunities. If you want, like how I see it happen, mostly companies are going to start with internal facing things,
Mhm.
because it's not going to put reputational risk or things like that. They're going to start with things that do not make decisions, like things where they're automating or going after operational efficiencies that are just kind of like automating repeatable tasks. Those are low hanging fruit, especially if it's like internal facing. Then they kind of move up to things that are either external facing or maybe decision automation, decision support, things like that. And they kind of move up the value chain. But they're obviously like moving up the value chain. That's where the real ROI is automating those heavy business processes or augmenting, right? Because you don't necessarily have to go end to end, but if you can take a process that takes 5 days and make it take, half an hour, that's a drastic improvement.
Yeah. Drastic improvement, both in terms of customer experience or citizen experience and in terms of the cost to support that process.
Yep. Absolutely.
Guys, thank you. This has been really helpful. I appreciate the chat.
Also, been a lot of fun.
Also, Half Baked, an interesting reference to Ben and Jerry's flavor. I think that's great.
I like ice cream.
Indeed. Cheers.
Thank you, Shawn.